Hi, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this very special live Viewers Advisory for Women's History Month, where we will be discussing women in film. Before we start, we'd like to introduce ourselves. My name is Darlene, and I work at the Beltsville branch.
Hello, I'm Rachel, and I work at the Bowie branch.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth, and I work at the Glenarden branch.
Woohoo!
All right.
Yay!
So I wanted to start us off with the question, when you think of women in film, what do you think of?
I think that they are so cool, and I have a lot of respect for women in film. That's like immediately what I think. And I also am like kind of empowered by it. Like, oh, they could do it. Maybe I could do it, even though I have no acting skills at all.
I guess what comes to mind is like the first women I saw in film. So like the Disney princesses. I know I mentioned Pocahontas a lot on these viewers advisories. That was like an image that comes to mind. And I think makes sense because she's like an amalgamation of a bunch of different women. So like my first images of women in film, I think that's what pops into my head.
Yeah, definitely.
I think similarly, it would be Disney princesses. Like they're the most like vivid in my mind when I was younger. For me, it's Mulan. Because I think that was the first time that was like, oh my God, this woman is like so cool.
Yeah.
And just like everything that she could do and accomplish at that time. And I think someone had told me that it was kind of based on like, I don't know, it's like Chinese folklore or like actual like events, but I think that just like blended more to like the mysticism of like Mulan.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Someone wrote Charlize Theron or Theron. I never know how to say it. Agreed.
Definitely. Yeah. I feel like she has some really interesting characters. And it's almost very rarely does she have characters that, I don't know, are just like subservient or, they're usually really strong characters. And I think she's purposeful with like the kind of characters that she takes on. So I definitely enjoy her career.
Yeah, she commits to it too. Like I watched a movie with her and then I watched another movie with her and I didn't even realize it was her.
Yeah, she did such a good job in, was it Bombshell?
Yeah, yes, that's it. That's the one.
Where she like she did like not plastic surgery. She didn't go that far. But she definitely like used something to like make her face mirror. Is it Megyn Kelly? Is that who she was? Yeah. And it almost looked identical to her. And even her mannerisms. So she really does kind of get invested into the character that she's portraying.
Yeah, it's a good one.
That makes me think of Angelina Jolie for some reason. I think that action star, but also someone who's considered to fit in like standard images of beauty, like those two, they kind of fit in that. So, but Angelina Jolie has been very, I think, specific about what she's chosen to do, and like now directs and executive produces, and I think Charlize Theron does the same. So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Angelina Jolie is like really interesting because I think early in her career, she was like very much sexualized and she would, just whatever character she would have, like, the Tomb Raider. But I think I did watch this like round table with her and she was like talking about directing. And I don't know, I just thought that she had like really nice, clear views on directing and being like faithful to people's stories. So I appreciated seeing her like evolution into a director as well.
Oh, and Alice mentioned some other ones. There they are.
The Alfred Hitchcock movies with Tippi Hedren in The Birds and Grace Kelly in Rear Window. Rear Window is like one of my favorite films. I don't know if either of you have seen that, but it's a good movie. It's really good.
I knew you'd have seen it.
Yeah, of course. I've seen both of them. The Birds is actually like, if you watch it, I mean, now it's not scary, but you can see how that was scary at the time. So yeah, those are good. Those are good points. Pippi is an interesting person because Alfred Hitchcock I think he kind of ruined her career, ruined her career. Yeah, and I mean, it can kind of go into our later conversation about how women have moved throughout the industry and how they have more power than they did then because Alfred Hitchcock was like kind of known for, you know, if you're not into me, if you don't do what I say, like I'll kind of cast you off. And he definitely did that with some of his female leads, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's been a recurring thing, I think, in film industry. Sometimes it's like overt and you see it happen in real time, but other times it's a bit more quiet. People just kind of like, or some protagonists or lead actresses just kind of like fall by the wayside and you just never hear about them again.
I mean, I think now will be comparable to the Me Too movement and what happened with Harvey Weinstein. Like, I don't know, I don't know what the people back in the day would have done if that movement had happened then, because there's a lot of people who probably would have. They probably would like if they traveled in the future, they would have been like, oh, that's not okay, like so yeah. Not to make light of the Me Too movement, but
For sure.
Yeah. So kind of going off that and talking about directors, we do have very like prominent male directors, but do you guys have a favorite female director?
I don't think I have a favorite director in anything or like even a favorite movie. But I really liked Lady Bird. It's Greta Gerwig. Gerwig, yeah, I really liked that. I really loved The Farewell with Lulu Wang. The Tale by Jennifer Fox. Those are some of my like favorites that happen to be directed by females.
Yeah, I think I was thinking about this question, and if it were just like favorite director of all time or even just like a favorite male director, I think I could very easily say Alfonso Cuarón. But for female directors, I feel like there isn't anyone's like films that I've been able to like trace amongst many films and say like, oh, okay, like I like this director's like body of work. It's usually like I know one or two films. And so yeah, I don't know that I'm not really like attuned to whether they have a distinct style or not. But one that I do think I'd say played a prominent role in my childhood, adolescence, would be Sofia Coppola, because she kind of had that string of movies. It was like Virgin Suicides and then Lost in Translation and Marie Antoinette. And yeah, I just remember really liking her films. Like she definitely has like a photographer's eye. She was a photographer before she kind of really went into filmmaking. Yeah, and she's really well known for like doing these very like aesthetic-y films on film. Well, she does it on film. She has like those lingering shots, and she like focuses on like loneliness and connection. So yeah, she was really big on Tumblr during the Tumblr years.
Tumblr.
Yes.
I loved Virgin Suicides. That was like the first kind of film I had seen like that, and I was like, whoa, this is amazing.
Have you ever tried to go back and watch it?
No, I don't. I kind of don't want to. I'm scared it'll be not as amazing.
I've never seen it.
Oh, it's
good. That's to the list. Something you've seen that I haven't seen.
Everyone.
Yeah, I mean, the ones that pop into my head are definitely people who are, I guess, more recent filmmakers. But I was actually looking it up because I keep thinking of the movie Love and Basketball because that was like very popular when I was younger, and that was directed by a woman, Gina Prince Blackwood, and I find her interesting along with I think Ava DuVernay as well because they have been in the film industry a long time, but it hasn't really been easy for them to make films and get opportunities to make film. And Gina Prince Brightwood actually made a recent movie that I really like called The Old Guard. Yes, The Old Guard.
That was an amazing movie.
Another Charlize Theron movie. And I was so excited to see her get an opportunity to make like an action film. So she's someone who I think has a very clear vision. And it's cool to see that she's getting more work along with Ava. And I think I'm mentioning Ava DuVernay in that because I think Ava DuVernay has been someone who has been very intentional about giving women opportunities in film. Like she has a TV show, which I'm Queen Sugar, and it like for most of her set, women work on the set. She usually brings in female directors to direct the episodes. So I think those two people are the people who are like flashing in my mind. Not necessarily because I love their work, even though I like Love and Basketball. And I thought the limited series on Netflix, about the Central Park 5, which I'm completely was really good.
What's that called?
But so those are the two I think who I think in modern times have been pretty impactful female directors. Which there are so many other ones, but again, this is like from our perspective.
But I think it brings up a really good point about like access and who has access to those opportunities. Because, you know, when I said Sofia Coppola, I'm very well aware that she is a daughter of another really famous director. And so she kind of grew up on sets, and I think he produced and like maybe helped fund Virgin Suicides, which was her first film. So she didn't really start from the ground up. You know, she didn't have to like make a name for herself. But someone like Ava DuVernay, like you definitely have seen her like on the rise and just like definitely like earn every bit of like fame that she's gotten, to the point where like I think most people recognize her as a really prominent female director now.
Oh yeah, I think so. And that it's called When They See Us.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And Alice says Penny Marshall from Laverne and Shirley. Directed A League of Their Own and Big with Tom Hanks. Again, haven't seen those. Haven't seen a lot of old ones.
Thank you, Alice, for those. I did not know Big was directed by a woman, but that makes sense. that makes sense. League of Their Own makes sense for sure. That they're supposed to make a remake of that. I don't know if they still are. Nope, not. But
I mean, side note, I'm kind of over remakes.
The League of Their Own has Gina Davis, another woman we haven't mentioned, but like I think someone who's kind of considered in the iconic female roles type of thing. She was in Thelma and Louise and some other movies. I know most people know her from Stuart Little, I think, but she's in some pretty.
Oh, our producer says it's a TV series in planning, not a remake.
I feel like that's kind of worse. Okay. That doesn't sound better to me, but
that's kind of worse.
So, I mean, I just feel like this is a side note from this conversation. I just haven't really, I don't think any of the like movies to TV shows have done very well.
Buffy.
Yeah, but Buffy wasn't that good of a movie.
Well, yeah, that's true.
No, you
had really
like,
low expectations.
Yeah, like it's like the TV show is considered like kind of the thing that really took it to the next level. The movie is kind of What We Do in the Shadows. Okay.
I love What We Do in the Shadows.
Oh, I love
Just adding comments, and yes, What We Do in the Shadows is
so funny.
So
yeah.
good. I like the movie better though.
Really?
No, I don't know.
I really love I just love listening to the theme song. Or like it just gets me in like a really happy mood.
No. It is good.
I will stay in the minority with that. That's okay.
Was Dear White People a TV show made from a movie?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, I thought the TV show was really good. Who produced that TV show? Do you know offhand?
Oh man, I follow him on Instagram.
Oh, it's the man. Okay.
Yes, it was.
Okay.
But Lena Waithe, she executive produced that film, and then she's gone on to have a lot of success. Actually, quite a few of the characters who were in the movie Dear White People have been successful. Tessa Thompson, she's been in quite a few films. Tiana Paris, who many people probably have seen in WandaVision recently.
So good.
Yeah, a lot of people with that have gone on to have very successful careers. I hate that I'm like not on top of it with the names. So I'm usually like rapid fire ready.
I should just blame our producer.
Yeah, definitely his fault. It's the male energy.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
Just kidding.
All right. So I guess kind of going along with that, what barriers do you think women face in the industry? So I know we talked about access being one of them, but can you think of anything else?
I think a lot of, go ahead.
Do we have time to mention? You were going to say something, Rachel.
Oh, I think that a lot of women, their competency is challenged from the get-go. Whereas I don't think men really have to deal with like their talents being, like questioned. It's just like, oh, we're bringing you on and you're going to do us great because you're a man. I think that is a big one. And also having a child and working, I think that people still say things to women like who's watching your child while you're producing this film or you're in this film, that I just don't think men get. I don't think it would even occur to someone to ask a man that, like, where's your child? You just had a baby.
Yeah. It makes me think of, this is not necessarily film, but not too long ago I watched the Quincy Jones documentary that was on Netflix. Mm-hmm. And he had quite a few like tumultuous relationships because of his dedication to his work. We kind of like, that was kind of a big contention because he was committed to his work. And I kind of felt like there was this feeling like, well, he was working. He couldn't be there all the time for his kids. He couldn't be there all the time for his family. And like, if a woman did that, that would just not be.
It would be praised.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because there's a lot of women who are directors and then have kids and families. Mm-hmm. And then there's women who, a lot of them see success not having that because it's kind of like you don't have to have that pressure. But then it's like, well, why don't you have a family? Why don't you have kids? Like, so I definitely think that it makes me think of like now being in the world of COVID and hopefully soon after COVID, like how much women have been affected by like their jobs and the economy and just how much that burden just falls more on women. And it's very difficult because women, I think, are given a lot of shame if they're not, yeah, or if they like their work and want to do their work and they like acting and that's not their main focus. Not that there's anything wrong with having kids, and I think there's really a lot of actors and actresses who have kids and are very committed to family life, but there's definitely a different feeling. Like it's like if you have a kid, it's almost like you're ruined your career, or you could potentially ruin your career for having a child. But I think that's changing. I mean, Wonder Woman, she filmed her movie pregnant.
I know. I think it's so cool for that.
Took it out.
I love that.
Yeah, and I think more and more that's starting to be like accepted as a part. But I do feel like, because Wonder Woman was also directed by a woman, so I do feel like it's like, yeah, she can do it. She'll be all right.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, that's another Kelsey's point about having universal messages. Usually they think like the male directed films are will make more money and more lucrative, like they'll hit a larger marketplace, when like that's not really true.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I always say this with like comedies, like most comedies that I feel like are centered around men are what would be considered rom-coms, like a good majority of them, like Coming to America, which recently had a sequel. Like I call Coming to America a rom-com. Like it literally fits all of the, the rom-com tropes, but it's not really considered one because it's Eddie Murphy movie. Like Wedding Crashers is totally a rom-com.
Yeah. But you're right. It's not, I wouldn't like think of it as a rom-com. I would just think of it as a comedy.
Comedy, like all of it. It's like all of these movies, they usually have a girl that they fall in love with. There's usually like a meet cute. There's usually like a breakup and getting back together and some conflict. It's literally a rom-com. Yeah. Whatever.
Like just because it's male dominated, or like it centers around a man, you'd think that they don't want to highlight the romance part of it, or like we just don't think about it that way.
I think it's more of like kind of like the thing about privilege, where privilege is invisible. And so when a man is the lead character, there's no reason to add this extra emphasis on romance, because like it's just a comedy that's for everybody. So I think the same thing with like women, they add these like extra adjectives because there's this thing that's considered, that's, as Kelsey in her comments said, it's not universal. So that's my favorite.
Good point. No, I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, and an offshoot of that is also that critics tend to be overwhelmingly male as well. And I think they also get to choose kind of the narrative of how a film is kind of dissected by the public, because they're kind of the first window that people have into films. So yeah, their perceptions of a narrative really matters as well. So if they kind of already, deem it a chick flick, or say that the most important aspect of this is romance, then that's what audiences are also going to think as well. But yeah, I mean, I also think the other thing is that, I mean, for actresses, it's different, but I know for directors, it's hard because when you think of a director, you think of like a white male, like you just think of a white man. And so I think if you don't have that job modeled for you, and you haven't seen yourself represented in that way, then it's hard for you to think of it as a viable option. I think about that with like librarianism in general, like all the time. Like, of course, most people of color and like men aren't going to think of it as like a viable profession, because that's not usually, who you see when you go into a library and are helped by a library professional. So yeah, representation does matter in that sense as well.
Ooh, so many good points.
Yeah.
I'm like,
I think the next question was going to be about age, and I feel like that's a big one. That's a big barrier for women. And I just want to go on a rant of there are some old men out here, playing 30, 29, and no one questions it. And I think it was when I was watching True Detective, the first season, I was watching that, and the characters, they like go back in time and they're playing like 20 years younger. And it's like, you're clearly pushing 50, 60, and we're supposed to believe that you're in your 30s, and no one questions it. And I'm having this rant because a character I really like in film was played by Charlize Theron, and they're recasting it to a younger actress. And like, to recast a man in a movie, like how many times have we seen Sylvester Stallone or like any of these other people play these characters, and it's like, let it go. like you're old. But Sigourney Weaver, they wanted to bring her back, and for a role that she was doing, and it was like, oh, like she's older, she doesn't like, and it's like no one. I just have never seen anyone like really question it. I mean, now you're seeing like the technology where they kind of age people down and stuff like that, but for a long time they were just letting like older guys like do these roles and no one says anything. But with women, they will recast a woman so fast, like you're like, was she in that movie? Because so that's like a really big one, and I think that's something that it takes away from someone being able to like have a legacy like some of these other male actors.
Yeah, de-aging is one of those weird things because it's a really expensive process.
It's really expensive,
from what I
and
remember.
it's not there yet. It's not.
Yeah.
I want them to kind of like wait.
Stop. Yeah. But it's interesting like who they're willing to do it for versus who they're not, because they didn't even have that conversation with Charlize Theron and Theron and is it Mad Max, right?
Yeah, Mad Max.
Yeah, they just cast like Anya Taylor-Joy.
No, she was the best part of that. I didn't know that.
Yeah, but they recast her because it's going to be like a prequel.
Yeah, but they could have done. But also, there's this thing called makeup. They could have fixed it. And if you know that they have this whole technology now,
Yeah.
I mean, whatever.
I mean, yeah, it's expensive, but it's interesting like who they consider it for. Because I don't even know that it was really necessary for the Irishman to do it. But that's what drove up like Martin Scorsese.
I couldn't even watch it because it was so bad to me. Like it just was so distracting. I might try again, but
yeah, it was very distracting.
It's not there yet.
Yeah.
There's like technologies that now there's so much technologies that look really great on screen, and there's some it's like we need to wait a few years. Like their skin looks so shiny. It's just like no, it's not there. It's not there yet.
Man, I'm devastated about this.
Oh man, we just broke Rachel's heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, she doesn't even look old.
No.
Ugh.
And it's sad because I really like Anya Taylor-Joy, but
I like her too. I think that actress is actually going to do a good job. But
Yeah.
I'm just saying, like,
yeah. Man.
Whatever. What's the next question?
So what are some common tropes that female characters fall into, and what character subverts it?
Damsel in distress, spinster, woman is muse. I could keep going. Should I keep going?
Yeah.
Well, do you have anyone that subverts any of these?
I really liked I think it's Adelaide in Us. She was so cool, and like she was the main person, and she had a lot of dimension, and you find out like more than you had first realized at the end. And her husband was almost the damsel in distress in that movie. So I really liked her. And of course, Diana in Wonder Woman. I love her.
Yeah, I love Diana in that. I think it really speaks to the kind of characters that I really liked when I was younger, which were, I think, characters that were like, I don't know, like, I guess it made it okay that they were like very feminine and like emotional, and had all this stuff. Like it kind of legitimized that, versus where before that would be a character that would have like very minimal lines, or maybe just someone that the protagonist kind of just, talks off of, just, like a thinking piece. Yeah, or, this character to be like fridged, so, to move along the plot. But I enjoy characters like that. So I do like that Wonder Woman, while she is like a really strong, like superhero, she also like really deeply cares about humanity. And like, I don't know, there's something like almost cheesy about it, but there's like a sort of sincerity to it as well, that I really enjoyed. And that's why I was pretty happy that it was Patty Jenkins, or like, that it was a female director that was putting it on screen, because I think that makes a difference. Because I think Wonder Woman was first in Zack Snyder's film, right? I think Batman versus Superman. Yeah, and she barely had any screen time, and I think one of the like criticisms most people had is that he made it so that it was saying that she had like left for like years or decades. Whereas like the way Patty Jenkins set her up, it's like she would never do that, right? So it's like there is different characterizations based on, I think, who the director is.
Yes.
I'm seeing comments from from our producer, and he's mentioned Queen's Gambit, which I think subverts, does some subverting, but then doesn't. but then doesn't. But yeah.
I was gonna say I actually saw an interesting like take, I think, on Queen's Gambit, which I don't know that I truly agree with, but someone said that one of the reasons why she was so well liked is because she embodied so many like masculine traits, like traits that you would attribute to a man, and so that would be like skilled or like, you know, not super emotional, and just things like that. And so I don't know that I truly believe that, but I think it has more to do with the kind of representation that you see often, and like who is making these stories, and the fact that people think that women are a certain way, and so when they act differently, they want to say like, oh, it's because of this, and not because she's just a multi-dimensional woman. Like
yeah. You know, because I think of, it makes me actually think of Alien and
Ripley,
because Ripley, like that character was written for a man initially, and I think I saw somewhere that one of the directors and one of the writers were saying they were just writing her as if she was like they weren't taking the fact that she was a woman into account when they were writing the character. And I just like, I get it. I get that. Okay. But like, it almost makes me feel like when people say things like that, it almost makes me feel like they're trying to say that there's something wrong with being a woman or being feminine, or identifying as female. Like that just, and that something about that bothers me. Again, I think it's like that kind of feeling of wanting to make something that you feel like is not like everybody else invisible, or not like the norm invisible. Because a lot of the things that she does in Queen's Gambit felt very relatable to me. I mean, I'm going to my personal life, but I just felt like, yeah, that's kind of relatable. I mean, I don't know. So yeah, so that's my take on it. I wonder if that's kind of a little bit of a short-sightedness of like, oh, like I think from those writers' perspectives who are male, they're being like, oh yeah, she can be just like the guys. But I mean, there is value in the story of a female character. There's value in that. So I get kind of side-eye that response.
Yeah, I mean, it's limiting to ascribe gender to certain like characteristics, as if like only one gender could like, I don't know, like show these certain characteristics.
Be dismissive or like tough or serious, or I mean, so this might be such a weird side note, but I'm going to mention it because I feel like it's very important. It's important to me. So I've recently got into watching sports talk shows, and I'm sorry, like I have the emotion that I have seen from people like about sports and about, you know, things that are usually attributed to masculine things is very interesting to me, because like I think again there's these like these assumptions about how men, women, people of whatever gender are ascribed to them, and it's just like not fair, because I've seen a lot of grown men cry over sports stuff, and women too. So I think I think there's room for just a wider view of whatever your gender is, to be seen and appreciated and to be demonstrated on screen.
Oh, Kelsey says manic pixie dream girl trope comes to mind. 100%. Yes, I loved all three of those movies, Kelsey. Those were like my favorites.
I did not like Garden State.
You didn't?
No.
I haven't watched Garden State.
I can't even finish it. I was just like, this is.
All right. Sorry I brought it up.
I mean, 500 Days of Summer is good. I think my favorite of the one, Kelsey, that you mentioned is Eternal Sunshine. I love that movie. That's a great
That's
one.
the only time I like Jim Carrey too. I can't stand him when he's trying to be funny.
Okay.
You didn't like The Mask?
No.
Like, The Mask is so good.
Yeah.
Nothing.
That's why you like Garden State. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
All right, fine. Yeah, Truman Show was good.
Truman Show was great.
But that's not funny. That's like a drama.
Okay.
I'm gonna leave that one.
So if when he's being funny, he's not funny to me.
Okay.
Yes.
Your opinion is valid.
Thank you.
Sonic. I don't know how many people saw Sonic, but that was like nice.
Yeah. It was like campy. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I see Frances McDormand.
Oh yeah.
She was in she just got an award recently for Nomad.
Nomadland?
Yeah.
I love that film.
I'm so behind on movies, guys. I
haven't watched it yet.
So
I really liked her in
Fantastic in Fargo.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And in the Billboard one.
Oh
yeah.
3 Billboards or whatever. You didn't like that?
I didn't watch it.
Oh.
I saw it. I mean, it's fine. Whatever.
3 Billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri.
Yeah.
Thank you, producer man.
But I mean, it's nice. I don't know. I definitely root for actresses when like older actresses that still have a career, because it is pretty rare. I do think that men are able to like age in that profession. I feel like you think of older actresses and it's like Helen Mirren and Meryl Streep, and then I don't know, it kind of like it does die, or it's a die after a while. I didn't mean it like that, but yeah, significantly less well-known older actresses.
Yeah, or like some of the older actresses became famous in their older age. Like Helen Mirren, kind of her start she didn't get her start older, but she became famous when she was older. And Judi Dench is someone I think. Yeah, she's
Maggie Smith. Yeah, those are good ones.
Yeah, Cicely Tyson, who recently passed away, one of like my icons. She's literally been everybody in every movie I've watched, I think, for me. But she passed away in her 90s, so it makes sense that to me she's always been older or elderly. But yeah, she's an icon. Like, so R.I.P.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whew. Or any other tropes you'd like to mention?
The sassy best friend.
Queen Bee.
Yeah. The best friend, the kind of the sidekick character. But I think, Darlene, you mentioned the one that I really wanted to touch on, which is like a woman who's like just there as like to help the plot move forward and literally sometimes doesn't even talk.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, because bridging is a really big thing in comics and superhero movies. Like, it's kind of ridiculous. Like, the amount of times it's like, oh, let's kill off protagonist's wife or like lover so that he has a purpose to like take down these villains.
Yeah, which is very concerning.
Yeah. Like you can't give him any other sort of motivation. They switched it up for definitely switched it up for John Wick. It was his wife died, but it was his dog.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 007. Yeah, James Bond is notorious for bridging.
Oh, spoiler alert! Oh, sorry.
You should have already seen all of these movies. I'm sorry.
I mean, but that's like the very beginning. That doesn't really spoil.
Yeah.
I mean, it just sets up the whole thing.
I didn't even in the trailers to the movie, they kind of show that part. So, but still, sorry for those who haven't seen it.
Yeah.
We have a question. What is your favorite female-led film?
I think Wonder Woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
What
I
did
just
you
love
like specifically about it?
like the land of strong women.
The land, yeah, the Amazonian.
Like that was so cool that there's like a whole land of strong women that just like were existing so happy and like just doing all sorts of really cool things. And yeah, I really liked that. Is it Gal Gadot?
Yeah.
That I like loved that she was pregnant throughout that when she's doing like really intense like tricks and stuff. Just like makes me really respect her so much.
Yeah, that one's hard. I can't remember.
Yeah,
I know we came up with these questions, but I can't. I can't think of like my favorite one. A League of Their Own. It's okay. It's like a.
There's no crying in baseball. I feel like I've seen a lot of crying again.
It wasn't super female led, but you know, now that I'm thinking, I think the first one that I can like genuinely remember watching in theaters was Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And I don't know, I think I always like really liked really strong women because it comes from like Buffy and like Charmed and like, I don't know, cartoons were like the X-Men and Sailor Moon. Like I just really liked really strong women.
Michelle Yeoh was one of my favorites. I really liked her. So, Crouching Tiger. I didn't see that until later, though. Like I don't know why I waited so long.
Yeah, I shouldn't have watched it at that young age. If anyone has seen it, you're like, what? You want to see that in theaters?
Really good movie. I don't know the answer to that question. The color purple keeps flashing in my mind, even though it's not my favorite female-led film, but it's a favorite of mine, but it's not like I think there's definitely some moments that are very iconic in that film, but I can't say it's like my favorite female-led. And it was directed by a male director. Steven. Oh, let me not lie. Is it Am I lying right now? Yeah, I don't remember who directed it. Bend It Like Beckham. Yes, I like that movie.
Yeah.
The movie wasn't what I thought it was going to be.
I love Keira Knightley.
Yeah, but she's not.
I always mention in all
the main character.
Advisories. Huh?
She's not the main character though. Like,
no, she's not. She's not.
Her. So I found that movie relatable for like being in an immigrant family and kind of seeing like some things that were relatable. But no, Pride and Prejudice. That's probably I really like that movie. And it's very. Woman didn't direct it, but it's.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. I mean, Jane Austen wrote it. So.
Yeah, Crouching Tiger really was a game changer. I want to. It's making me think of Kill Bill as well.
Yes, I couldn't think of the name of it, but I was thinking like, what's that movie? Yes.
Like Kill Bill. That.
Mm-hmm.
Another one I saw later on, and.
Awesome.
It's intense. It like with all the problematic things aside, like
just toss all of them aside.
Out there, it's cool to see women do what they do in that movie.
Yeah.
Mean Girls is
a classic. Classic female-led film.
I'm just gonna be quiet about it.
I love Mean Girls.
I know you do.
Well, I mean, it's interesting to like there are movies that we grew up with, but then you like examine them when you're older, and you're like, that was not. Those things should not have been on screen, or like who greenlit that. So I think Mean Girls is definitely one of those. Like I do remember enjoying it when I was younger and thinking it was just like hilarious, but yeah, now that I'm older, I'm like. It was so racist. Like, there was just a lot of Yeah, there was just a lot of things wrong with that movie.
I mean, I'm definitely one of the few people who just, I don't want to say that I dislike them. I don't dislike the movie. It's just, if there's like a gathering of people watching it, like I'm just gonna be like, hey guys, I'm out. Thanks. Thanks.
In my defense, I haven't watched it recently.
It's okay. A lot of people like that movie. You don't have to backtrack. It's okay.
No, I still stand by liking it, but
it's all right. Yeah, Mean Girls it's a movie.
It's a movie.
I think it's a movie that has been very impactful on film though. So I think anyone should watch it just for that, because it was a big deal when it came out. So trying to see if there's any others. I'm sure there's like tons that we're gonna remember after this.
I was thinking like Charlie's Angels was also another one, and then they did a reboot of it, but I just
it didn't do well though.
Yeah, but I enjoyed the original. I love Lucy Liu, like
yeah,
like in general, like amongst like all of her movies. But I especially liked her in Charlie's Angels.
I like the Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good movie.
Yeah. That was such a feel-good one.
That was a feel-good one. That one, I think, was directed by a woman, maybe?
I know it was written by Anne Brasher, like the book.
Yeah. Yeah. And Alice says Betty Davis is a strong actress.
Yes, Betty Davis is a strong actress.
Oh yeah, Real Women Have Curves. You guys.
Yeah, we did
that
something on that.
That was a really good women-led film.
Yes.
And America Ferrera is actually gonna I think direct her first film. So I don't know. It's always nice to see someone's like progress in the film industry.
I remember her on Disney Channel.
Yeah.
Oh yes. Every time I introduce myself for a program, I'm like, "Hi, my name is Darlene," and a part of me just wants to like finish.
Oh my gosh. Taking it back. So
I guess thinking of all of these films that we have brought up, how do you feel that gender representation has expanded in film?
It's expanded a lot. I mean, there's still ways to go, but I think now film is representing more than two genders, so that's a huge thing. Trans representation is something we're seeing, and we're actually seeing trans women and men represented by trans women and men, so that's fantastic. I think when I think of women and people who identify as female and feminine, I think that's expanding because it feels like it's not being so limiting, and it feels like there's different stories that are being told, which is exciting to me. I hope to see more of it.
Yeah. And I think that kind of leads to this whole wider discussion about intersectionality, and just like whose stories finally get to be told. Because I think, I don't know if we ended up asking the question, but one of the questions was like, what is a female character that had resonated with you, when you were younger? And I was thinking, I'm like, I can only think of like bits and pieces of people here and there, but I've never really like fully resonated with like a female protagonist, because there was just always something that was like different, or that I couldn't quite relate to, but so it was just like in small doses. And it kind of reminded me, Issa Rae often talks about this, but the characters she said that she often related to, or the ones that she liked the most, are like the really like awkward, quirky girls in like coming of age films, and they usually tend to be white, but she had never seen like a true representation of like an awkward Black girl, and so that's why she decided to do that and Insecure. So it's nice that it would be nice to like see that representation already, but it's also nice that there are people that kind of get to go into that film industry or or television and kind of make that representation for themselves. Like if they couldn't see it, they're at least putting their stories out there. So I think that's nice.
Yeah. I am just always excited when there's a Black woman who's just doing something more than being a
the
side
best
character.
friend.
And I guess I kind of alluded to what I disliked about Queen's Gambit, but that was actually a big part of what I didn't like. So I still am holding out hope for like more characters who get to just do more. I think most recently a character that I felt it was actually more TV than film, but Regina King, who I haven't mentioned, who also has been directing.
Yes. One Night in Miami was really good. Sorry,
Yeah,
just on a side.
it's a good movie, and she directed it.
Yes.
Booksmart, that's another movie, yes.
Yeah, that was so good.
But I seen her on Watchmen. That was like really nice to see because
That was really nice.
It's a complex character who gets to do a lot of different things, and it didn't feel like her Blackness was like ignored, and it didn't feel like her womanness or her femaleness was ignored. So
She was like,
Lupita, you mentioned Lupita, right?
yeah, I mentioned her. Well, and I think too, like she was celebrated in The Watchmen. I think, like I was like, she's so cool.
Yeah,
She's so cool.
it's nice to see that. Nice to see someone who still has flaws on top of that. It wasn't just like this, like blanket perfect woman. It was like
it was realistic.
Yeah, a complex character. So that's what I'm looking for in representation, seeing more of that, and for all women characters.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I think by the sort of like upward trend, I think, of seeing more women in film, both on screen and behind the scenes as well. Because it is important for them to be in every part of that process. But it was really interesting. I was like, I had listened to a roundtable with directors, and Lulu Wang was like talking about when The Farewell was up, and it was talking about like who would distribute it. Like several people had come up to her, and she said there was like a big company, and then there was like A24, and she went with A24 because that big company, like, you kind of will just get lost in the mix with all those people that they, are trying to market together all at once. But A24 was going to kind of give her the very like directed like marketing. And I think that's interesting because I think you know her name. Like it's Lulu Wang's like The Farewell. And I think it could have been in another, like, it could have been like on Netflix or something. And I feel like that would have been lost. I think just knowing, I think that's another reason why it was hard for us to like name that many like female directors or female creatives behind the scene, because they're oftentimes not credited or associated with the films that they do.
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, you were talking about that with Lost in Translation, that a lot of people don't associate that with a female director, even though that's considered like a very critically acclaimed movie that a woman did. I mean, I think American Psycho was directed by a woman. Yeah, I
can't remember who, but it was a woman, and I was like surprised.
Yeah. So yeah, I just want to see more women do things. It's like kind of take over.
But I feel like, you definitely have to like give them that credit, because I remember in the same roundtable, like Martin Scorsese was in it, and he was just like, oh, sometimes I wish we could just do away with credits, because like
you've gotten all your credit.
I was like, of course you can say that. Like no one pushed back, and I was like, but you're Martin Scorsese. Like if you do a movie, no one's gonna think like, they're gonna say it's a Martin Scorsese movie, right? Like you can have Robert De Niro in it, but it's still movie.
He put his name, his full name. So what are you talking about?
So I mean, it's just really interesting. Like when you occupy that kind of space, it's like I don't think you think about because I think in a way he was just trying to say that like kind of stories are universal. Anyone could do a really good story, and so like you know, should we really focus on whether it's made by a woman or a man? But I think
Yeah, I think that's what people, again, I don't want to like sound like a broken record, but I think those are comments that people say when they're uncomfortable with realizing that they're probably benefiting from how the structure is. And so they're like, oh no, it's not that bad. Like it sounds a little bit dismissive, but I mean, I'm a fan of Martin Scorsese. I'm not going to take anything away from him.
yeah. Yeah, I'm not either. I'm just yeah, so
Yeah.
I want more representation of women, but I hate how much of it seems tied to a franchise that is usually full of guys. Yeah, part of me is like afraid for like Chloe. I think her last name is Zhao, who did like Nomadland. She's doing the Eternals, and like Marvel fans are just like notoriously difficult. It's a very like nice way to put that. But yeah. And I mean, you know, even Patty Jenkins doing like a DC movie, it is a tough space to occupy.
Yeah, it's still in a place where it's a lot of pressure because there's not a lot of people who've done it, and like you were saying earlier, critics kind of lead the way with how things are critiqued. So if a woman makes a film and it doesn't do well, it's kind of like seen as if it's ruining it for the rest of all time.
I know, and that's what almost made me sad about the fact that the second Wonder Woman didn't do as well, or that it was kind of like panned by critics and a lot of audience members. I'm like, I feel like a man can do it, and it's not going to set men back, but like you think about like bankability and like, you know, who's going to get these big budget films, and you wonder like, does this then affect studio execs and whether they're going to give this person like money and capital to be able to do these films still. But yeah, I don't know that I worry too much about Patty Jenkins, but yeah, but I was
maybe she'll be the first woman who'll like really succeed after having a movie that a lot of people didn't like.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, so we do have an electronic resource where you can watch a lot of movies. It's called Canopy, and right now for Women's History Month, it actually does spotlight films directed by women. So you're welcome to kind of look through those as well. But do you guys have any Canopy picks that you think people should start with?
Ooh, I don't know if they're on Canopy. I really liked We Need to Talk About Kevin.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's really good, but I'm not sure if it's on Canopy.
I've heard about it. That's the one with what's her name? She's
Tilda Swinton.
Yeah, Tilda Swinton. I was like, she's in Doctor Strange. That's not her most famous film. But yes, I don't know if that's on Canopy, but
yeah, I'm not sure.
Anything A24.
Yeah.
A24 series. So, and that's all on Canopy, I would suggest. And some of the films that Alice was mentioning in the chat, like some of the old school films, you'll catch some of those on Canopy because the Criterion Collection is on there. And it's interesting to kind of see how women have evolved in film. So I definitely suggest checking that out.
Yeah, I'm gonna plug in Obvious Child.
Yeah,
I love that movie. Oh wait, who's the actress again?
Oh, there's Canopy.
Jenny Slate, right? Oh yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So Jenny Slate's in that one. It's really good.
It is really good.
I saw another one that was by a Latin American director. It's called Pelo Malo, or Bad Hair. I will warn you, it's a really sad one. And then on my to-be watch list is The Watermelon Woman, which I've heard really good things about, but it is
really good. That's really good.
Right there showing up on your screen.
It's definitely very 90s, and it's definitely very film student, but something interesting about the woman who directed that movie, Cheryl Dunye, she directed some episodes of Lovecraft Country, which have been getting good reviews. So
also on
please check that out. And that's a queer Black woman, so just seeing her experience in the 90s is great to see.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right, so that is the end of our discussion. Feel free to still kind of comment or leave any of your final thoughts. But yeah, thank you for joining the discussion, everyone.
Yeah, so fun. Everyone is like
Yay.
so good at movies and films and stuff. Yay. Oh.